Welcome to The Power of Fire. This tour takes you through a real home that has been destroyed by fire. The furnishings within this structure are typical of a home. The fire and smoke damage is authentic. All damage is directly or indirectly the result of fire. During this tour, please observe the following rules for your safety. An adult must accompany children. Please stay inside the barrier tape at all times. Do not touch any items within the house. And footwear is required. Let's move into the kitchen and see the power of fire. The fire in this home was reported to 911 at 8:02 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. Weather conditions were extremely violent that day. Numerous tornadoes were reported along with hail, wind, and rain. During the storms, the occupants were preparing their evening meal. A deep fryer was in the corner of the kitchen, being used to prepare supper. At about 7 p.m., sirens alerted residents of Sioux Falls to the presence of funnel clouds in the area. The family who lived in this home left to seek refuge in a community tornado shelter. The family's primary concern at that time was to seek protection from the weather. During the evacuation of the house, the occupants did not shut off the deep fryer. About an hour later, a neighbor left the shelter to get snacks for their children and saw smoke coming out of a bathroom roof vent. The neighbor immediately called 911 to report a possible structure fire. The hot grease in the fryer reached a temperature that ignited it. Thick, black, poisonous smoke filled the upper reaches of the home. The flames in the area grew larger and consumed combustibles within the area. Firefighters arrived on the scene and extinguished the fire with a small amount of water. They opened the front door and placed a fan that blew the smoke out the back door. They then began to search for concealed fire. Inside this home, there are signs with numbers that point to specific types of damage or interesting items. Let's start here in the kitchen with sign number 1, line of demarcation. Lines or areas of demarcation are the borders defining heat and smoke effects on various materials. They appear between the affected area and the adjacent unaffected or less affected area. Byproducts of fire such as smoke and heat normally rise to the upper areas of a structure. The heat at the ceiling near a fire can be 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. Inches from the floor area, it may be 100 degrees Fahrenheit. A person can survive longer on the floor during a fire. Remember to stay low in smoke. Sign number 2, the telephone. Notice that the top of the telephone has been distorted by extremely high heat, while the bottom of the telephone cord appears normal. This is because the difference in heat. According to research, this type of plastic melts between 600 and 650 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet a few inches below the phone, there is a piece of paper that isn't even scorched. Paper burns at 451 degrees Fahrenheit. This shows that even a few inches makes a big difference for survival. Sign number 3, the skylight. This is probably the hottest area not in direct contact with the flame. Heat rises from fire. The temperature at the ceiling can be 1000 degrees Fahrenheit or hotter. This extreme heat is hot enough to start a fire independent of the original fire. The rain and the wind cooled the outer layer of this skylight. The inner layer melted and flowed like taffy. A few more seconds and the heat would have also melted the outer layer, and the fire would have then had a fresh supply of air. The home most likely would have been completely destroyed. Sign number 4, the ketchup bottle. The radiated heat from the fire was hot enough to warp this ketchup bottle. Notice that the bottle leans toward the fire. It is common during fires for plastic and glass objects to lean toward the highest temperature. See, the juice containers and even the plastic knife handles are leaning toward the fire. Sign number 5, the deep fryer. This is where the fire started. The deep fryer was left on for an extended period of time. This generated an oily, dense smoke that filled the entire structure. The heat built up to a point where the oil within the vat ignited and spread to surrounding combustible materials. Do not leave cooking of any kind unattended. Sign number 6, ceiling overhaul. The removal of ceiling and wall sheetrock was performed by fire crews to visually check for fire damage and to ensure that there were no concealed fires. This process is called overhaul. It is the process of checking for fire extension. This must be done. If not done properly, the fire could smolder in the walls or ceiling and flare up later. Sign number 7, the freezer door. Interestingly, one can see an imaginary line that connects the deep fryer to the fire damage on the freezer door. Do you see it? Look at the inside of the freezer door. We can see that the fire traveled up and out from the fryer. In most fires, these lines are visible to trained investigators and help them determine where the fire began. Let's move into the living room and see what we can see there. Sign number 8, temperature gradient lines. Notice the different vertical levels of damage that heat and smoke can cause to the walls. The smoke detector is damaged more than the thermostat because it is closer to the ceiling. Sign number 9, a clear floor. Normally the safest place to be in a smoke-filled room is on the floor. If a person were standing in this room during the fire, they would have been overcome by poisonous gases and smoke much quicker than if they were crawling on the floor. Sign number 10, the ceiling fan. The heat at the ceiling in this room melted the plastic bracket which held the ceiling fan in place. It then crashed onto the glass-top table. Sign number 11, the smoke detector. Smoke detectors save lives. A properly located and working smoke detector will alert residents to smoke near the ceiling. Smoke detectors must be located near the ceiling and must be tested periodically. Have a plan to get out of your home if a smoke detector activates. This is especially important at night when people are sleeping. This smoke alarm is mounted in compliance with HUD, Housing and Urban Development Standards for manufactured housing, but it is not in compliance with the National Fire Protection Association standards. Smoke alarms should be mounted within 4 to 12 inches from the ceiling or on the ceiling, 4 to 12 inches from the wall. Sign number 12, molding. This plastic molding melted closer to the heat at the ceiling. The molding appears normal at the lower levels. Smoke from burning plastics is extremely irritating and toxic. The lessons here in the living room are simple. Smoke and heat rise. The best place for people to be is down on the floor, below the smoke level. If you encounter smoke, stay low and get out of the home. If others are in the house, yell to arouse them and tell them to stay low also. Do not spend time gathering valuables. Firefighters will do their best to preserve your possessions, but they can only help if you call them immediately. Get out. If you do not have a portable phone or cell phone with you, go to a neighbor's home and call 911. Firefighters will be dispatched to your address. Finally, let's move into the master bedroom and look at a few more points of interest. Sign number 13, bedroom damage. The doors to these bedrooms were shut during the fire. The fire produced large amounts of smoke. This smoke was forced through cracks and openings in the building. Closed doors can delay poisonous gases and fire from entering a room. Sleep with bedroom doors closed. You can see the difference between the damage in this room and the living room. There is some smoke damage in this room, but that will be explained in just a moment. You can see where a small amount of smoke entered the room around the edge of the door. So people would have been safe in this room for a few minutes longer than if they had been in the living room. If you hear a smoke alarm sound when you are in your bedroom, you should roll out of bed in case there is smoke up high and crawl to the door. Feel the door handle with your hand. If it is hot to your touch, you will know there is intense heat on the other side of the door. Don't open it. Crawl to your second exit, which is a window. If the door isn't hot, open it a few inches and make sure the way is clear. If there is smoke blocking your escape, again, go out the window. Sign number 14, protected areas. Pictures and furniture against the walls create areas that smoke can't get to. These areas do not show the smoke damage. These are called protected areas. Sign number 15, the bathroom door. You'll notice that even the outline of a bathrobe can be seen where it was hanging on the bathroom door. Before we leave this exhibit, we would like to remind you of the 4 lessons we have learned as we walked through this home. Number 1, watch what you are cooking. Cooking fires, or fires in the kitchen, are the leading cause of home fires. Don't leave your cooking unattended, and if you must leave the home, turn off your appliances. Also, keep a lid handy. If a small fire ignites, simply place the lid over the pan and turn off the heat. Leave the lid on until the pan is cool to the touch. Number 2, smoke alarms save lives, but only if they are properly placed and properly maintained. Replace the batteries each spring and fall when you change your clocks. If your smoke alarm sounds, consider that it really does smell smoke. Begin your escape, yelling for others to do the same. Number 3, sleep with your bedroom doors closed. The door will provide you with precious time. If the door is hot or blocked with smoke, go out your second exit, the window. Number 4, as discussed throughout this tour, having a plan and practicing it as a family is very important. During an emergency, things become confused and frightening. Practicing will help you and your family to act appropriately if a fire emergency occurs. Now as we leave, we'll show you why there is damage in this bedroom. There is another door through the master bathroom that was opened just a crack. Look at the top of the doorway, and you will see where the smoke entered this room. Thank you so much for taking this tour. We hope that it will help you be fire safe, because safety is no accident.